Hi, welcome to Africa in Perspective. I'm Nelda and I bring you African affairs Mondays through Fridays. In today's video, we're talking about Rwanda. You guys know I'm a big fan of Rwanda. I have my own issues and feelings to do with Paul Kagame, who's the president of Rwanda. But in today's video, we're talking about how Rwanda has signed a deal with the United States of America under Donald Trump, of course. And the deal is that Rwanda is going to be receiving up to 250 deportees from the United States. So these are people who are being deported by Trump because his policy has been very strictly anti-immigrant, if you ask me. And so these people, instead of being returned to their home country, they're being returned to Rwanda. Make it make sense. Exactly, make it make sense. Because one of the things that I'm concerned about is that these people are criminals, a majority of them, which is why their own home countries are rejecting them, because Trump has he's been doing an absolutely excellent job when it comes to returning these people, but their own countries are rejecting them. And he's trying to tell me that these Venezuelans, people from Myanmar, Cuba, all these people are going to be integrated well into the Rwandan community. No, really. And I think this is something that we're going to get into towards the end of the video. Why exactly did Rwanda decide to commit itself to this? Because, and this is why you should watch this video, this is a trend that is going on. It's a trend that has happened before and is being reinvented now with developed countries dumping immigrants to developing countries. It happened roughly in 2001, between 2001 and 2007. Australia was receiving asylum seekers, but while they saw the boats coming in, they would stop them and redirect them to Papua New Guinea, to Nauru, which are neighboring islands close to Australia. And according to the Refugee Convention, this was in 1951, asylum seekers are allowed to get into any single country they get into because they are fleeing something. That is what qualifies an asylum seeker. This is somebody who's running away from war, from persecution, from violence. So if they get to your country, according to the international law, you're supposed to receive them. But Trump is saying, no, we're not going to receive them, the same way Australia was saying that in the early 2000s. Now, that is not the only example. In 2016 as well, something similar happened with people who were fleeing the Middle East. So people from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, they were heading towards Europe, particularly to Greece. And Greece was saying, oh my goodness, we're so overwhelmed with all these refugees. So the EU struck a deal with Turkey, and that meant all the refugees were being redirected to Turkey as well. And now we are seeing this trend again because Eswatini, which was known as Swaziland, has received already, let me look at my notes, that's 5 people from the United States. These are people who have been deported. It's people from Vietnam, Jamaica, Laos, Cuba, and Yemen. Now tell me why these people have been taken to Eswatini. Tell me that Eswatini had full control over this conversation. Tell me that. Because I don't think so. In the same way, South Sudan received 8 deportees from America, and some of them are from Myanmar and Cuba again. Why is it that we're receiving these people? Because what is the benefit? You could say, oh my gosh, we're just so kind, we're very hospitable. But let's think of the ethical concerns around this, because the very first thing is, how are these people going to assimilate themselves into your community? How? How do you expect these people to learn your local languages, to learn about your food? These people are away from home. They're refugees. They're running away from something. They're not just like, oh my gosh, I needed to go for a holiday to the United States and here I am. No, these are people who are fleeing something. And I think the United States is running away from its responsibility as one of the countries that has received these asylum seekers, is actively running away from that responsibility. Now, am I saying that these immigrants went in legally? No. Am I saying that the United States should just open its borders up to everybody? No. What I am saying is they need to find a way to deal with the immigration crisis they have without having to dump that responsibility on developing countries. Because now Rwanda has struck this deal, and we're going to get into the details now. I think there's a lot of diplomatic issues that have come into play here, because a few months ago, Trump was talking about how he was one of the main people to help the DRC, that is the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Rwanda to solve their issues, because there's a group of people called the M23 rebels who allegedly are being supported by Rwanda, and they're wreaking havoc in the northern part of DRC, particularly in the Kivu area, so North and South Kivu. And they were fighting. Rwanda and DRC were not seeing eye to eye. Trump came in, supposedly he was the one who helped them strike a peace deal. And so I think that because he did that, he was able to play into the fact that he was able to bring that peace. And then Rwanda was convinced to go ahead and take these 250 deportees who could be coming through. Granted, according to the deal, because it was struck literally today, the deal to bring the 250 in, they say that Rwanda will have the full authority to decide who's coming in, who's not coming in, so they will be able to see the individual profiles of the people who are being deported. The only concern I have is, a lot of these people, like I said in the beginning of the video, these people are criminals and they've been rejected by their own home countries. So tell me why. I'm a skeptical person. I tell you guys this all the time. I'm very skeptical. Why would the United States show you the profile of somebody who's committed murder, who has potentially committed sexual assault? Why would they show you that profile? Because you're obviously going to reject them. If I were trying to get you to take a deported person, I would be faking those documents. I'm just saying that, guys. It's human nature. The United States has been very shady in a lot of dealings. I would be very concerned for the people of Rwanda taking this deal. I would be very concerned. That is one of the arguments that a lot of people have brought up as well. Now, there is obviously financial incentives, which is why I keep asking myself, why is Rwanda taking this deal? It doesn't make sense. These people, the refugees, are going to struggle to assimilate. There is, of course, talks about the refugees receiving workforce training so that they're able to work once they're in Rwanda. Healthcare as well is going to be provided to them. They're going to receive accommodation support. So a lot of things they're going to actually get. Now, the only issue here is it's not sensible, guys. I'm really trying to convince, you're seeing me trying to convince myself of this in real time. So in March 2025, I'll give you an example. In March 2025, Rwanda accepted an Iraqi man and they were paid $100,000. So in this deal as well, it's not clear. There's very little transparency as well, but there is a potential for grants that Rwanda is going to be receiving. There is a potential for social support costs. So things like stipends, job assistances. So there is a plan in place. It's not very clear how it's going to be run, but it's supposedly going to be more manageable than the deal that they had with the United Kingdom. So in 2022, Rwanda was about to receive, again, same case, refugees who had fled to the United Kingdom from other countries. And the United Kingdom was saying, oh my gosh, we're so overwhelmed. Look at us. And then Rwanda was going to be the one to receive those refugees. But that deal didn't go through. Now, we're going to get into the reasons why, because that is still relevant to this day. In 2023, when that deal was about to go through, the Supreme Court in the United Kingdom rejected that deal for multiple reasons. The first one is that Rwanda is not considered a safe destination for the refugees. Why? Because Rwanda has been termed as an authoritarian government. Now, the simplest definition of an authoritarian government is that there is a centralization of power to the level that there is political suppression and people have very limited autonomy, even in their daily life. It's not as extreme as totalitarianism, where you don't have any sense of freedom. But in Rwanda, for example, there has been jailed journalists. Allegedly, there's also been rigged elections. There has been disappeared opposition leaders. So you're telling me that country, that kind of political environment, is a safe third country to be able to deport somebody into? No. So that is why the deal didn't go through in 2023, which is why potentially it also may not go through this year, because there's already a case in Boston to do with this third-party program that Trump has come up with. In the same way, the UNHCR, which is the Refugees Department of the United Nations, the UNHCR has decided to speak about the human rights obligations that Rwanda has and how they're not adhering to them. And a lot of the things that have been cited are the things that I just said, the jail journalists, the disappearing leaders, but also there was something to do with refugees in particular. This was in 2023. There were Congolese refugees, 12 of them, that were killed by Rwandan police during a protest. So there was something to do with food rationing cuts. They were reducing the amount of food that the refugees were going to be getting in one of their camps, and the refugees decided to protest against this, and 12 of them were killed by Rwandan police. And this sparked a lot of outrage among people. So they were saying, if this is how you treat a refugee from Congo, for example, which is a neighboring country, how are you going to treat a refugee from Yemen? Somebody who clearly, a lot of Yemenis do not look like the typical Rwandan person. That is a concern as well. There is also a concern to do with M23 rebels. These are people who are wreaking havoc everywhere in the DRC, and supposedly they are being armed by Rwanda. How are the refugees going to feel safe in that country? This is a very real concern. So it's a very short video, but I just wanted to bring this to light to hear what you guys think. Do you think this is a good idea for Rwanda? I genuinely don't think it is, because Rwanda is, first of all, a very small country. They have a population of roughly 15 million people. Their GDP is currently $1,000 per capita. That is not a strong economy. Sure, it's one of the fastest growing economies. Kigali is absolutely beautiful. I have amazing Rwandan friends, very hospitable people. But is this a practical decision for them? In my opinion, it isn't. I think there's great financial incentives. They're being paid greatly potentially. But is that all that there is to this deal? I think it's time that we start standing up for ourselves, because what you're not seeing the United States sending these deportees to Canada. Canada is a neighbor. They're not sending them there. They're not sending them to Honduras and Nicaragua. Those are closed countries in North America. They're not sending them to the Caribbean. They're coming to dump them to Africa because we're just going to receive them. So I think this is a sign that we're not being respected, like I always say. and we need to stand up for ourselves. Now, I'd be curious to hear from Kagame. Kagame, if you're watching this, let me know. I'd be curious to hear what he thinks and why he made this deal. But that is all I have to say about that today. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. So thank you so much for watching, and you see me in the next video. Bye.